Okay, as a preliminary matter, this is Veronica Volchik, Vice Chair of CRC, standing in for Dorothy Hertz, who will be here momentarily. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Joanna Roach. Present.
I can hear you.
Okay. Linda Williams.
I can hear you.
John Baloche.
John Bolas can hear you.
Okay.
Sue Minton.
Very good. All right, members of the staff, when I call your name, please, and Veronica Volchik here. Members of the staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Heather.
Here.
Okay. Jericho.
Oh my goodness.
All right. All right. We have no anticipated speakers on the agenda. Do you want to take this over? Okay. Introduction to the remote meeting. Good afternoon. This is an open meeting of the CRC. Is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of Acts 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation until such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, CRC is convening by video conference via Zoom app, and it was posted on the town website. For this meeting being held, is being recorded, that all attendees are participating by video conference according to, nope. Let me go back onto here. All supporting materials have been provided to members of the body, are included in the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, let me cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the vice chair, will, and now Dorothy will introduce each speaker to the agenda. After that, yeah, that may be a little bit easier.
It's in big writing.
No, so where was I on here? That's where I'm, okay. Okay. Introduce each speaker. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments. Please hold your comments further. Please remember to mute your phone and computer when not speaking. Please remember to clearly speak in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait till the chair yields to the floor. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And I think that's it. So Dorothy, I will turn this back over to you. We decided to just start because
That's
Linda
fine.
Williams is going to be, her phone is dying,
Okay,
and so
great.
welcome. Take a deep breath.
Thanks. Excuse my appearance, guys. We've established the quorum.
Mhm.
Okay, and everybody's in. Can we get an approval of the agenda? So moved.
Second.
Sue?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Victoria?
Veronica.
Veronica,
Okay.
sorry, one of those days. And who's in there?
John.
John?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Hi, Linda.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, nice to see you, hear you. We have the minutes in front of us. And we go to the first one. Sorry. I printed them both.
You want my copy?
I have September 6th.
Yeah, and 25th.
Right. I don't know what happened to the 25th.
We didn't have a quorum.
Could I please look, can I look at your 25th? I cannot speak on the 6th. I was not present for this meeting with these minutes. I'm gonna leave it to the people that were here to do so.
I move to approve the September 6th minutes.
You have no changes in anything written in them?
I do not.
I second.
Hold on. Then, Sue?
I,
Monica?
I,
Joanne?
Aye.
And John Balash, you were the last one at that, correct?
Aye, yes.
I was
John
there.
Velazquez, aye.
Linda, then Linda.
Aye.
Then we're gonna go to the meetings, the minutes of September 25th, and there was something in here that I saw that I wanted to correct. And I had it highlighted on mine, so if you could just bear with me for 1 minute. Sorry, it might take me more than 1 minute. Did anybody else see anything?
I didn't, so I'm gonna abstain on this. Okay.
Did you read them?
Yeah, I did. Only comment that I have on it is, I realize that what she's done is she's taking it from the recording and doing a voice to, whatever. And, reading them, I found it choppy in my mind because you're not used to reading a conversation, but I found that it did pick up the, accurately, yes.
And Tamika did mention that she is gonna try and fine tune the level of detail and what
Okay.
she can summarize. So I'll pass that feedback along
Yeah,
and she's here.
because
for the
it
next-
was cumbersome, so I think it's efficient to do it that way, but then a editing probably would be better for our reading.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
It just has to be a summary of it and key
Right.
things noted.
Okay.
She might find it a lot easier to do, if she does it that way.
Yeah, and like she did say she wanted to, like, she was uncertain of the level of detail and she wanted to have, like, next time she's here, she'll have a slightly more simplified one.
Mhm.
She did a little bit of minutes for DPW, but this is her first time doing this
Right.
at any large.
if she goes back and finds whatever old ones are posted, it might help her just have a template.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll have her, I'll suggest that.
That's what I would have done.
Well,
I don't like to reinvent the wheel anytime I don't have to.
She had that application that would work and give the whole.
Right, right, right.
Identify speakers, so,
There you go.
Put in there.
we've actually been asked by town admin to do a couple of different, like, experiments and ways of using automations and reduce staff time.
Yeah.
So if you
I
want to
support
come back to this.
efficiency as well.
You know what, I'm gonna hold off on these, so because I don't wanna waste the time. I
Sure.
have it at home and I would rather like come back and bring these minutes back with me.
So we
With
can
the,
just
with the
table that.
notes. We're gonna table it to the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
25th is me.
And do we have any word on the other minutes?
I'm gonna have Tamika start working on them as soon as I can, but the written minutes are no longer in the possession of the town. Ann's notebook is not on site anymore. I can start working on them. I can't give you a timeline on how fast they'll be done.
Is there an accessibility to, because I know I have to, like, all my stuff is in storage because I have to by law keep my stuff.
And disposed of her office stuff when she was done. There are no minutes books. It would be going back to the original videos and summarizing from there.
So none of her notebooks were kept with the minutes?
No.
Okay, I think we gotta look into that just a little bit more and see whether or not we can conjure up, like.
The
see
other
if there's-
thing is you can have it transcribed through Zoom.
Yes,
Yes, but I don't, like, I don't know how that procedure works. in
Dan
terms
did
of
it once before.
The
Should-
transcribed
Town
from,
council, hold on, guys. Town council has said we do not do transcriptions of any meetings at all. They're supposed to be truncated meetings, who was there, what the motions were. That's it. They do not transcribe minutes, and if you transcribe any official documents, they have to be bonded, et cetera, because I went through this at the ZBA and the planning board and the HDC. So let's stay off the word transcription.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm just gonna ask one thing. I appreciate your feedback. Let's just like mellow it down a little bit on that feedback, in the volume that is coming out. We all want to learn from this. That's the best way we can handle this.
Well, I have
So-
no idea how loud this is or what, or who's talking when, because some of them are muffled.
Okay, we're gonna try our best to communicate as as peacefully as we can throughout this. So with that being said, let's see what we can do to rectify that and to see, and maybe IT could be able to pull up from Ann's old computer information.
I have to request access to any of those files through HR. I've already done so. That is likely not, it is possible, and I will investigate that possibility.
Okay, I would appreciate that a great deal. I think that's important. Okay, going to the next thing, committee guidelines. I wanted to go over that a little bit before we went somewhere. And this is not, this is to just sort of try to pull everything back in a little bit. I spent a long time going over this and discussing this with powers of be about how committee guidelines run. We appreciate having the staff here, so don't get that wrong. If you want to be here and whole, that's great. But feedback to us only comes when we ask for it. And at no point in time should any viewpoint of a town official or a paid official influence the way we make a vote or tell us whether they think the way we're going or a decision is accurate or not. And that's really important. Our feedback is to use our human service office as a place to go for answers, for questions in regards to things that we might come up with in the contracts, if we have questions in the contracts or in ethics. But it is not for feedback to determine how we are going to make a decision as a committee. Okay, that is not, and I want to sort of reiterate that I don't mean to be feel like I'm trying to be aggressive. What I'm trying to do is, I felt the last meeting, we sort of had a way we were tending to go and it was swayed. I don't think that what we have to do is if we as a committee have an opinion, that committee, it goes within the committee and it's up to us to determine that. And our job is to ask of all these great resources we have, their opinion only when we need their opinion on the legal ends of some of the things we're going through. So I sort of wanted to put that out and put that understanding there, because I've been trying to better understand it myself. And that was what I understand. I think it's under chapter 12 some of it's under chapter 12.
Would
So
that be the section outlining that contract review committees to work with the director of human services?
can you hold on a minute? It was not, we could not hear.
That was the the section 12 under the founding of the contract review committee, where it is discussed that the contract review committee is to work with the director of human services to render recommendations on grant applications.
It is to say that underneath that, though, when working with them, the town officials do not partake into or swaying of the voting of the process being done by the committee. You guys are there for us to go to for resources or to get something verified. But when we get into a discussion, it's the feedback should remain within the committee and the committee doing the voting process. Okay,
But procedural
that's the
advice,
decision.
but if we need advice on a procedure, that's when we get advice from.
Correct, the powers to be.
Okay.
Yes, and whether or not, like, we could say, hey, we have a question in this, could you look into that, or do you have the answer for that? And that's where we go. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next thing into this, and go on to the discussions of what we have read on the questions, to be asked. Oh, and so I do have the letter. I only have 4 copies of the letter. And Jericho, I can send it and it can be sent. It needs to be, I have a letter. I was one shy. I didn't think Joanna would be here. So I can read off of mine. I'm gonna, and just, I know I'm jumping for a second, but if there was a way that we needed to get it out to people, I wanted Jericho to have the ability to get it out. Okay?
Well, that's good, because I have to leave at 4.
Five.
See, the Lyme's disease is.
She's left before she arrived.
So I just wanted to have, and if we want to skip and go to that and then go back to the questions, we can. Because
that's
I
good.
have been
Right.
told that we have a timeline for
Yeah.
this.
I agree.
Right.
So
We can
here is
share.
one, here, I can probably read it up, well.
I don't know if he can.
I'll.
And I'm gonna send it to you so that you can send it right
I'll
now.
make sure, yeah.
So
use the-
everybody
Okay.
sees that, I'm sending it right now to Jericho, just online if anybody's watching.
And John, I can send it to you as well, although you're on your phone now, so it might not be easy to read.
I think it'd be almost impossible to read and then get back to you, because I'm not that good with figuring out how to do all of this.
Regardless, I'll.
Yeah,
pass
you're
it
gonna have
on.
to email it to me also, because I can't read it on my phone either.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that's
send
what
it
we're
to-
trying to do. I'm forwarding it right now to Jericho. And I apologize, guys, I was stuck on Eel Point Road with 2 flat tires, not 1. And that's why I'm late.
So can I
Jericho,
ask where this letter came from, Madam Chair, and
Yes.
how we didn't get it before the meeting?
because it just got finished today, honestly, this morning while I was at work and with no access to computers out there, it did not get out to anybody.
So should that
Um,
letter have been emailed to Jericho so he could have sent it out to us?
Yes, but it didn't get, I had 2 flat tires. I didn't have time to do it. These are extenuating circumstances right now. I'm trying to send it out to you so you can have it.
I know, but
Okay.
my point is that whoever sent it to you should have sent it to the office as well.
She
I wrote
Wrote
the
it.
letter.
She wrote it.
Jericho, let me know if you get it, please.
Work has been slow lately. Especially the email. Regardless, as soon as I get it, I will forward it out. We can
Thank you.
proceed.
We want to read it for the benefit of.
Yes, and Linda, I'm just gonna read it to you guys as you're getting it. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
And I know that there's a ton, the editing is okay. Okay, Joanna? Editing's okay, Linda. I'm just gonna read it. Dear Nantucket Select Board and Finance Committee, the CRC has been making recommendations for the allocations of human service funds for over 30 years. Since fiscal year 2021, there has been an allocation of 650 under the Human Service Grant, 175,000 under the Cannabis Grant, and this year we will be allocating the additional 175,000 for the Youth Behavioral Grant, giving us a total of 1 million in human service money. It should be noted that in fiscal year 24, there was 690,514 requesting human service grants, 403,000 for the cannabis grant, and the youth behavioral grant submissions totaled 562,955,000. The total submissions in grants was $1,656,469. The request all far exceed the funds available. These requests reflect the need within our community for the human service programming. The events over the past year, and particularly over the last 4 months, have highlighted the need for the continued support of human services while bringing to the forefront the undeniable areas we need to improve and the areas where there is a need to initiate programs. Do you know that Nantucket has one of the highest suicide rates in the state, especially in white males? There is an unprecedented amount of children seeking services off island and residential care for behavioral health issues. That sexual assault and domestic violence has spiked and continues to rise since COVID. And upon writing this letter, I learned of another overdose death on the island. We have to do better for the individuals and families of loved ones who are so profoundly affected by all these things above. They are our coworkers, our neighbors, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, uncles, partners, parents, sons, and daughters. Each of them holds a unique place in the tapestry of our community. It is imperative that we do everything in our power to bring these issues to the forefront and work towards a better solution in the end. Working towards stronger, more accessible behavioral, and I didn't get the other word. I was trying to come up with what service I wanted to put in there, of our community members. It is our obligation as a community whose boundaries are water to hold on to and nurture the members of our community. Together, we must work on having a healthier community. The social economic fabric of Nantucket would present a tremendous challenge to any community. Then you throw in our demographic location and the challenges become immense. Nantucket has had unprecedented growth over the last 2.5 decades, with the largest growth over the last decade. Nantucket has become one of the most diverse cultural communities in the state. Such a changes would strain any community. Realistically, the human services provided in this community are essential to the overall well-being of so many. The ability to travel from our community to another to seek services is unreachable for so many unless we have financial means to do so. The CRC respectfully requests that the funding to human service grants be increased to $1.2 million, and the CRC recognizes the continued support of the town for these crucial needs. Respectfully submitted, Dorothy Hurts.
I'm not sure it's enough.
I sort of, part of me agrees, but part of me has had a lot of conversations and just feels like if I asked for way too much.
Do you mean?
Dollar amount?
Dollar amount or in the words?
No, the letter is fine.
Okay, but dollar amount.
So what do you think?
Because this is an additional 200 if we
So-
take the 175 as added in, so it's only
It's not
200,
added in. So what you have to
Right.
remember is that when Jericho and I went,
right?
it was stated that 175,000
Was one time,
was one time with hopes that by showing collaboration, we could go after some grants
Right.
that are available outside the community. That doesn't mean that we might not see some of these things some way or another within our next grant process. But I just want to make that, we did not tell them that we would be seeking these funds in an additional year. We did say that our hope was that through the collaboration, there would be grants available for this.
And the cannabis grant is not coming to us in that way this year. They've allocated some money for us, but it's no longer, what is it called, Jericho?
It was from a stabilization fund.
Yeah.
Previously, it was revenue collected directly from, and
Is it the stabilization fund from the opioid settlement?
I do not believe so. I
So
believe
that's
this is-
separate money. So there's money also that is coming from a stabilization fund from some opioid settlement that we are getting from the state.
is that a one time or is that an ongoing?
I think it's a one time.
One time.
Yeah, I did sit in on that meeting. I believe it's a one-time. I think it is centrally collected with finance and then dispersed there. One additional bit of information on this is Brian did let me know that the intent is to increase funding, but the way that they have phrased it is the additional 175 to cover the gap from the cannabis would be rolled into that increase in total human service funding. He did say discussions were underway for the final total to be between 800 and $1 million per annum. I don't know the timeline.
I
on that.
feel like this would be a stronger ask if we were saying that we are gonna overhaul the way that we're doing this. Because right now, we've done this in a very sort of, so I'll say some things that I don't like about our process. I don't like that organizations can ask for money under the 650 and then come back and ask for money under the 175. I feel like that's not a good practice for us. I would rather see an organization come in and say, I want X amount of money for this program and X amount of money for this program, and that all the money was under one umbrella. And I mean, I'm fine with 1.2, I might go for 1.25, right? So that it's a 1,250,000. And then we as a group say of the 1,250,000, so much of this money we want to allocate towards helping businesses operate, right? Meaning that we'll underwrite like some payroll, right? Some physical costs. So much of it we want to be under program support, and so much of it we want to be under program development.
So I just have to make this clear, just so we all know that, according to what I understand from how it started is the human service grant only under special circumstances should cover salary and not program.
Right.
Just so we understand that that's like.
But you know, that's not what we've been doing.
Right.
There are salaries that we, like, without the salary, we would not be able to have the program. Like the program, the person is the program.
Right, but I think we need to revisit that if there's a request, and I'm not saying with the ones we're looking at in front of us, that it's clearly they're asking to cover salaries from the money they get from us.
I would one
So
hundred
we
percent
need to
agree.
really revisit that.
I would, and I think the idea is great. I mean, I think it sounds like the money would be coming to us in one pool. And whether or not we're writing a cannabis grant or whether it becomes the whole human service grant and the cannabis grant gets rolled into the human service.
Well, I don't
grant,
think we
you
should
know
be
what I mean?
talking about the cannabis grant at all, because.
No,
it's
but
not-
I'm saying.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't.
But I think
But that-
even with the youth behavioral health grants, I think there would be a benefit to look at it all at once, because I saw in reading this,
Right,
there's some crossover,
there's a lot.
a lot of crossover. And I think it would be a better way for us to judge if we saw everything together and we say, okay, we do want to make sure that X amount of whatever we give is going to go for our youth. And X amount will go for, but to look at it all together, it would be a much fairer way of.
I agree, I agree. I mean, I
Holistic,
totally
Holistic,
agree. with what
holistic,
you're saying.
that's a better word.
Like, I totally agree with
Because
what you're
I
saying.
just feel like the ask is stronger
Right.
when we say, listen, we've been doing this now, our little group for a couple of years. Right, some of us have been on this committee for longer. From where I sit, like one pot of money, one process a year.
Right.
Divide the pot into some different categories and start to make some rules around how people access the money that are more meaningful than what we've done in the past.
Right, more accountability.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, so much is for general human services, so much is, I'm gonna call it addiction management and support. And so much is for behavioral health grants, and then some percentage of this has to be directed towards youth. Right, and then we say things like 25% of no more than 25% of any request can be used towards salaries. Like, we really start to put some teeth into the program.
I agree. We have to also make sure that there's, that there is. We want to make sure we look at the elderly too in this, instead of just the youth. There should be
Sure,
designated funding that
exactly.
goes towards the elderly in the community as well.
Rather than 0 to 25, 0 to.
Well, no, 0 to
But-
25, but I think
0 to
some.
with
but there's a
infinity.
Like
or whatever,
60
right,
plus,
60
60
plus.
plus that has a huge need in the
Yeah.
community
Right.
as well.
But for the purposes of the letter, I think what we could say is that we're learning and we're going to try to develop a set of criteria. Right, so that proposals can be evaluated based on these three categories, the audiences that they're serving. And we will develop some metrics to look at salary and overhead as part of grants.
Okay, if
Mhm.
you wanna, I think it's great. Like I said, information, could you send that to me and I can add that to the letter?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the dollar amount,
Mhm.
is it a better philosophy to ask for more? And,
Oh, we lost Linda, I believe.
We did.
Her
Make
phone
that
died.
note.
yeah, better to ask for more and then be happy when we get that 1.2. It's a philosophy, it's a certain.
Well, it's the way we tell everybody to do everything here.
I was gonna say, that's how
Right.
your applicants,
Right,
Well,
Right.
that's another thing that I
shoot for the
feel-
moon.
I
and-
also feel like we should cap requests. Like, I feel like no individual organization should be asking us for more than $150,000. I just don't feel like I think it compromises the playing field, and I think we become too large of a donor in some of these people's businesses.
So what you're saying is that you would like to see us set a limit on what each organization can do. So the question would
Not
be,
each organization, no one can apply for a grant that exceeds 10% of our budget. So if our budget is 1,250,000, nobody can request a gift of more than $125,000.
okay, so I've been told, just to clarify something, when I asked about the helping,
Sure, because.
the helping, hearing, was the healing through horses, was the fact that we, could accept more than one
Okay, and we might be.
grant
settling
from any organization. So by us limiting is actually changing what procurement law is. So procurement law, as far as I understand it from because I asked about this because of the fact that the question was, we had two from one organization, was they may. So anybody can put in for more than two grants, can put in like multiple grants, if in fact, wait, let me finish, they're providing a different service within that grant. And so I think it's
Yeah.
hard for us to say, you know, to any organization, hey, we're gonna say that you have to provide these two things within this cap. If,
we're not saying the same thing,
okay, I'm sorry, I
Right.
thought you were saying that 150,000 is it for any organization.
but it would be, so there's three different categories.
So within the category, they have
Yes.
to be able to, okay.
Yes.
May I ask a
Okay.
clarifying question?
Yep.
Is another way of saying what you're saying, that no award to a single entity will exceed X percentage of the total budget?
But I want us to divide these into
Like
Some
a
pots of
youth,
money.
a youth category, a general services category?
general services, addiction management and support, and behavioral health grants.
Excuse me, but I'm gonna go back to something, because you said that at the beginning, that you didn't like the fact that they put in for the human service and then the cannabis, the same groups. But then here, we have to be, by law, we have to accept if somebody comes in and says,
But
hey,
if
we
we
can run
set-
this for.
Right, but if we set a cap on how much they can, a percentage of how much they can apply for
In
each
each category.
category, then we are, because I don't want to call out any particular group, but there are certain groups that we support a larger percentage of their operating budget than many other organizations that they get money from. And I'm trying to not do that.
So is it a percentage of their operating budget or a percentage of our operating budget that you're?
I'm trying
Worried
to,
about.
I'm trying to tie it to like something that is more meaningful, right? So that, because I think that one of the things that came out of this youth behavioral grant submission packet is we got some
Dynamic
proposals,
ones.
yes, that are out of what we have ever seen. And I think that that is the kind of programming that we need to try to support, because that's what will move the needle, right? When I feel like, and I
That's
don't,
actually what.
I don't think I
designed
said this a year ago, but I feel like we've supported the same thing in the same places a lot. And that's not to say that that's bad or that they don't need that support, but we haven't pushed anybody to come up with other things that the community needs. And I think we're moving into that space.
Well, the most crucial thing is, and I'm Jericho, I'll recognize you in 1 second, was that this grant was actually designed that the first funding should go to newer programming. That was, it wasn't supposed to be a sustainable income
Right.
to run
Mhm.
programs.
Right.
So I think the idea of giving some kind of boundaries now and going back to the real core of what the contracts were supposed to be is a very good idea. So I think that, you know,
We're onto something.
right.
I don't know quite
right.
exactly what it needs to look like, but I do think we're onto something.
Okay, and Jericho, I'll recognize Jericho.
My primary thing was that, to my understanding, as you explained it in the past, this was originally a startup, like essentially a startup grant for new programming. And that we've had discussions in the past about slicing off a chunk of the existing fund back before, like 2 or 3 years ago,
Right.
specifically to incentivize new programs, using a variety of like smaller budget allowances for people to get initial starts, and then perhaps doing what we can to make it easier to apply for new organizations in a variety of different ways. And that would be a good policy that I think, at least as
Right.
long as we are consistent.
I
with
think
line.
so, think that it in a sort of really constructive way is gonna make some of the people who are repeat applicants look at how they're managing their financials. Because it is lazy to come in here and ask for $150,000, and then for us to look at your financials and recognize that that supports a large chunk of your salary. Right, I want people to say what they're using the money for, right? So if you need to hire, I'm making this up, right? Nobody did this, right? Let's be clear. If you're saying I need to hire.
This is hypothetical.
This is hypothetical. So if someone comes in here and asks for $150,000 on $1 million operating budget, and they are doing it to hire two part-time clinicians who are starting a brand new program, that's a very different thing than saying this underwrites this portion of our budget, right? Which we have had.
Yes.
Right. We know it does. We know it does for a lot of them. And I think, I think that going back, that was why some of the, we asked last year that some of the other newer programs, be looked at real more seriously. That was put forward last year. So I think all these ideas are great. And I think that, I think it's a good foundation to work off of. And if you want to send me this information to add
Yes.
to the letter,
Yes.
I will gladly do that. And I
just
know
think
that we
make
lost
the
Linda,
letter
but
Stronger.
if we
Yes.
can talk about the idea of, if we're okay asking for 1.2 million, yes, I understand, that, I mean, I've had a few discussions, so I sort of understand where the town, where we might be, what we might be told, but, we do ask everybody to do that. So if you think we ask for, I mean, we have on the table that Joanna is suggesting that maybe we ask for 1.2 million. Does anybody else agree with Joanna's?
2.5. I
I
mean,
mean, 2.5.
I just want to bring.
given
one
the
point-
argument, I'm like, why not 1.4?
Yeah, I mean, I.
As a grant writer?
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Right, I could be convinced to ask for more. I just think that if we ask for more, our outline of what it is we're gonna do with this money.
Is more
needs to-
important.
Is more
Yeah.
important, it needs to
Yeah.
support the ask.
I also think that we have to start, and this is the key. We can support as many human services as we want. I can tell you that from my personal experience over the last few months, some of the organizations we fund have failed dramatically. And so we cannot in any way, shape or form, turn around and I can't say, I want to do this because I don't want to see reform. I definitely need to see reform and I definitely need to, my personal experience, nobody should ever experience. And I have spoken to the people to be with the organizations that we experience it with. But I think it's really crucial that we are on top of them more. We're holding them more accountable. And when they're not doing it, they're not getting the funding. They're just not getting it because we can have sources out there.
Right.
And clearly, some of the programs that came to us in this behavioral health, hit the youth behavioral health, hit things better than any programs that have come forth in some of the human service grants.
Could we ask for testimonials in quarterly reports
From people,
from
I-
participants in the programs? Like,
I think you can ask for anything in the quarterly reports. I think that we could elaborate on, like, if you want to do that, we can put that on another agenda with suggestions coming in to additions to quarterly reports. And
I'm thinking about what you said, like, hearing about the what the people who are receiving the services, are they finding them valuable? Is it moving them forward? Like,
So you're talking about surveys.
I'm
I
talking,
mean, we could ask them to conduct surveys of the.
Yeah,
program
I just-
participants and share the results with us.
Because
we talk a lot about financial accountability,
Mhm.
but what about service?
And we've
account-
asked for, as part of this, and most of these folks are building an evaluation process at the end of this. But what you're asking for is
As we go.
along the way, a touchstone. That
So we
is
see
it.
more. I'm just gonna.
Go ahead.
Jared, go ahead.
Just we can, the information they are required to give us in order for the disbursements to be lawfully released is dependent upon the contract, but we can ask for whatever clarifying information we want at any time.
Into
and
the contract, correct?
For the next fiscal year when that's allowed. There are guidelines to that are procurement law based that I'm not familiar with, but we can also have their responsiveness to our questions and request for additional clarification be a factor in their evaluation for subsequent grants. That's something. that's-
Or, but we can also put it in, what I know is that we can put it into the grants. We can say, we're gonna grant this money with these, and if these are the criterias within the granting of the money that we need.
Mhm.
And I think that, any of these ideas would be great if somebody has them and you wanna bring them in, then we can discuss them.
Parking lot for ideas.
Sorry, just as a point of order, the quarterlies, you asked about the quarterlies last time. The due date is the 11th. I'll get them out to everybody as soon as they're all in.
So I have some questions about that, which also is relative, I think.
Okay, wait a minute, because we're sort of skipping, now that we've done the letter, I think
No,
that,
this is about the letter too.
okay, then just stick with it.
So the question I have about this is around looking, because I want to be able to address a couple of other things in the letter. So I'm thinking about two things. One is the cost per person served, right, which has come up a couple of times, and also returned money or unexecuted programs. Because I think that these are questions that could come up, right, when we're asking for more money, because we in fact have returned money, right?
Mhm.
And I was very confused about how that happened, why that happened. And how come, like the timing in which we knew about that. So I want to figure out some way to bake this into what we're saying. That like, where is the outlet? Where is the, lifeboat? Like at what point can they jump off? And at what point do they get in trouble for that? Because I think we're,
referring specifically to the Gosnell.
Pauline, so
I think
Gosnell,
these are directly, both of these are related, I think, directly to Gosnell and also to Fairwinds. Because at a certain point, because I've been on this committee now for a few years, the cost per person that we were able to help at Gosnell was very high because they didn't execute the programs or get the number of bodies in the door. Lack of marketing, they sold their building, lots of reasons, and that whole thing just kind of fell apart. And we didn't really know that in real time, right? So there was no way for us to pivot and either recapture that money and give it to somebody else or figure out some way to reuse it.
so from what I understand, we can never recapture the money. If the money is given to somebody in a grant, I asked that last year, can we take that money? And I was told because the grant, and we can clarify this, but because the grant was written to Gosnell, we can't get them. I was like, can we take that money and put it back into this? And I was
But can't
told,
we write a
no.
contingency in the contract that says if you don't execute this in the timely manner and in the method in which you've described, you void the contract?
I
We
believe,
can, but the money still becomes void, and the problem is the money still goes back into the general fund. We don't get the accessibility.
There-
It doesn't
to
come
read
into, it goes into general.
It goes
just
into
come
the
back
general.
to.
Okay, but here's the next part of that.
Okay,
If we're able to track that money, so say that Gosnold failed, we got 45,000, Fairwinds couldn't execute something, we got another 50. So that's 85 that goes back to the general fund. When it comes time to budget for the next year, we can definitely say we returned, because we don't even know this, like we returned $85,000 to the general fund. We just want it to be tacked on because the finance committee approves the release of that money and it would go to free cash. So the money doesn't really go away. It just needs to get reallocated to us.
okay, so then what we have to do is find out how we can get that, in 1 second, I'll get to you, how we can get that. So that process, because we did ask it last year of the funds that were returned, was there a way, was there
I
a
know.
way to initiate into this? And we were told no.
on,
So,
But I think this has to be built into contracts.
on that point, there does exist a mechanism. There is a different way to store these monies in there. There is currently money that was allocated in previous fiscal years that is still in that system and has not been returned to the general fund. It is possible in some way, but we have to bang out on a very granular level. There absolutely are legal and contractual abilities to have thresholds by which it would void the contract or invalidate the rest of the contract, and we do not need to disperse money if we do not receive reporting or accurate information out of that. So there are facilities with that. I am hopefully meeting with Brian to talk about that and a couple of other issues around that I will try and get as concrete an answer about that as I
can
can.
we see if Brian can come in and talk with
I would
us?
absolutely love to.
Let's see if we can ask these questions, Joanna and Brian, and he can better explain his viewpoint on the monies. His viewpoint.
Yeah, I would like to hear that.
Okay,
I mean, because I think for the purposes of the letter, I can just say that we want to adopt more efficient contract protocols. Right? I mean, that's essentially what we need to do.
And like streamlined, standardized reporting as well.
so are you gonna send me this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as another thing attached or relevant to this, apologies, I am currently in discussion with my boss Roberto and with town admin about getting some money together to do a strategic development and design program on the human services top to bottom, sort of efficiencies and,
Like an audit.
basically.
Great.
So that's something that's in there if it gets through budget.
Okay, okay, so
Can you,
I'm gonna,
I would like to know if that gets through budget because I will be voting on this budget and I would like to advocate for this.
Yes.
Just like there is going to be a grant writer position added into the budget this year from the town.
is it definitely gonna happen?
It's what their plan is to do is to put in the admin office of the town. They're going to hire a grant administrator. This person will not write the grants. They will be in charge of managing them as they come in and will be in charge of the money that will then be allocated to hire independent grant writers per project.
I heard this, not to lose funds, right? So that they can keep going after, they lose a tremendous amount of funds and grants, right?
Yes,
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 I
I have
did hear
been
about this.
behind the scenes advocating for this extensively.
If there's
What
any
this means.
letter of support or something that is going around or needs to go around to support that, then please let me know.
I think it would be a very good idea for you to speak to Roberto and to say that in his budget, that he allocates even $50,000, that he allocates $50,000 to hire an outside grant writer. So that this committee has access to that money and we can apply for grants.
Mhm.
I have one follow-up question. Is that within our remit? To my reading of the charter, we are a advisory body that offers recommendations to FinCom. So I think it is something we should be doing and it would benefit the entire thing. I just want to make sure there's.
Could the Council for Human Service do it versus the CRC? Could the Council for Human Service go after the grants? And then the money becomes available because we sit underneath the Council for Human Services and henceforth, then the Council for Human Services is doing that and we're just helping. You
Yes,
know,
and
they're keeping
certainly
that
we could
commission.
recommend grants for them.
Mhm.
And we are currently about
Right.
to do an executive session to try and redefine the mission of the CHS, although that
Yes.
will, if it crosses a certain threshold, require some town meeting. It'll require a motion on the floor of town meeting and approval.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, our meeting is next Thursday and this will be the subject. We just got some information. We
Now
were.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we basically want to look at what our charter is. And now we understand that whatever changes we make has to go back to select board and town floor. But where this comes from is we have volunteers who spend their time and they want to do something. They want to do more than it just be a review of services, et cetera. So we're sort of starting from scratch.
It's interesting because we used to do one of
Good.
that, just right now,
Right.
under the committee. We did a lot. We had group dinners, we had information, we provided services, we got people to services.
Mhm.
We brought in people to help with health insurance. There was a lot that we were doing under the Human Service Council.
Right.
And then we wrote the big report, back to basics for the town. We spent a long time on that. And that was like a community effort with a huge board and we probably had 500 participants in the community at the time that sort of came in and met with us and we really worked hard on that.
So this
There's
was
a
timely.
possibility
So
to do
this is
wonderfully.
timely.
I'd
It
like to
all-
bring them
It all sort of like, even though we've gone
Cut
from
an
here to
hour
there, this all does. It's coming together and I
It's
think
great.
things will gel.
in.
It's great.
So this is a good conversation to be having at this point in time.
All right, I have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah,
So once I go, there's not gonna be a quorum.
no, John's there.
So that would be 4 of you.
Yeah.
Or that leaves us a quorum, but I think that right now the discussion, it was the discussion and presentation of questions to be asked of youth behavioral grant applicants, right?
Can I just ask before we leave this, what is the time frame for this? When does it have to be
I was
submitted?
told today that I should get it submitted.
Okay,
I'll work on it.
That was ASAP, everybody. That's what I
Yes.
said.
okay,
Took
can
sweet.
we make a motion that it gets submitted with information we've discussed, so it doesn't have to come back? Because we won't meet again till next Tuesday. And is that delaying this in any way?
You can make an approval, you can make a motion to approve the letter with the changes that Joanna will present. And,
We're not
and
really
we-
gonna present them.
you're gonna write them. I
Write
mean,
them.
that she is, that you have presented.
You have this in Word.
It is in Word.
You're gonna send it to me.
I just forwarded, I copied it into Word and forwarded.
Okay, great. 'Cause then I
Okay, it
can-
was in Word though.
Yeah, it was directly in the body of the email, so I just copied and pasted it and dropped it into.
Oh, It should be in Word.
So I can make a motion
I'm gonna
that,
send you it in Word.
Okay.
I'm gonna send it to Jericho in Word, so it goes out to you, because if what's there doesn't have any changes, it should have been right in Word. Go on.
okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that the letter that was presented with the additions and changes discussed in this meeting, it gets, that's the approval that we give for you to move it on.
I think I'm allowed, can I ask a question on that one? Are we sticking with can we clarify the amount of money that we
Okay.
want in this letter?
So, the
Sorry.
approval with changes, and additions presented with the amount of money to be 1.5.
I said 1.25.
Oh,
I said
1.4.
Oh, I just upped it. I'm sorry. So what are we agreeing at?
How about 1.3, and we'll hope that we get less. I mean, we get that, but I mean, it doesn't.
Okay, so, that the amount stated for the request will be 1.3 million. All right,
So
I need a second on.
I will second the motion.
Okay.
aye.
Sue,
Aye.
John,
John Balash, aye.
Joanna, aye. Dorothy, aye.
Good.
Thank you guys on that letter.
All right.
Can we now skip back to very quickly the questions? Our meeting is supposed to be over at 5 anyway.
Right.
So we're just gonna clearly go, was there any one of these that actually, when you did it, stood out and you said, and on this, the number should be clarified is the horses has 2 in there, 70 and 112. Okay, everybody on the grants, it should be 70 and 112,000. There were 2 different submissions.
For horses.
The
Yeah.
horses, yeah.
Yeah, and that should be noted in there. John, did you hear me on that?
I heard you on it. By the way, Dorothy, I never did get those proposals that you said you were going to drop in my mailbox.
Oh. You're right. Jericho, he's right. So, I will make
You
sure
don't have
that
an
you
extra
get
copy?
it.
With you?
Not with me. I can print one out in the office.
Can you print it out and I'll get it to
Do you
him?
want me to run it? I'll do so at the.
John, when are you back on
Yes, if you
island?
don't mind.
Not a problem.
Okay, John,
What?
you're
Yeah.
on, are you on island?
No,
Not right now, but I will be tomorrow
When?
afternoon.
Okay, so why don't I just plan on dropping it to you Friday morning, Jericho? I'll pick it up
Okay,
for you
whatever,
Friday
or you
morning.
could, I'll be on the island tomorrow afternoon in my
I
house,
mean,
so.
Thursday morning. I meant Thursday morning. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. Thursday
Okay.
morning, I'll drop it to you, okay?
Yep.
I'm off island tomorrow. I'll drop it to you on Thursday. Okay, my apologies. You should have called me.
Well, I
Um,
meant to, but then life took over.
Okay, so in reality, John didn't even have a chance.
okay.
Okay. But did anybody have any questions on any of these?
Or
concerns?
yeah, well,
Were there any that you looked at and said, oh, it's sort of the same thing we've already been doing?
My question for all of them was, is this a new program? Now, the horses are obviously a new program for Nantucket, but like, is it? Is the Dreamland, did they do this program? The Boys and Girls Club, are they already running some of these programs?
I know that the Boys and Girls Club is not running these programs. These are programs that they have spoken about as what they needed to enhance and bring forward. And they had somebody come in and do like a survey of what was needed, the assessments.
Oh, okay.
And they had been talking about it, and they said what Jamie said to me, I'll just say what Jamie said to me was, there had been a big discussion within the staff for a long time, and they were trying to find a way, and they said this sort of booted them into saying, okay,
This
this is
what
our
we-
chance, we need to do it, we know what the problems are, and we have to address them.
Exactly as
Consistent.
intended,
Huh?
exactly as we hoped. we
Yeah,
intended.
exactly, it was perfect.
consistently, and I'm saying this for Dreamland and also for the 3 that we did as a group. I want to know more specifics on what the outreach is, and in many of them, they say children in need, but I guess my my bias is, yes, we want to reach the ones who are in need, but I'm also concerned about the kids, the children that are in the middle, because they often are not served, not just in here, but in everything. You know, in a school situation, you know, the top achievers and the bottom achievers, funds go there, but the kids that are in the middle that just float along, they don't get. So I want to make sure that on every one of the outreach is not only just, I want to make sure the
At-risk.
kids that are really the at-risk kids, but I also want the ones who could be at risk, but you don't know, are the silent ones are being addressed. That's one thing. Second thing is, I found it very hard not knowing, not having the overall budget. And I'm gonna use, I'll use the Dreamland as a situation. I read it 3 times and I didn't see they're asking for salary of X amount of dollars for a number of people. But what is, first of all, do they have, these are existing people, so we're gonna be paying them additional salary to conduct this program, but do they have full-time jobs already? I didn't see that. Is it, my job is a 0.8, and now this is going to be 0.2, so that makes it a full-time job, and that extra 20,000 I'm asking is, or do you already have a hefty, I feel
Hefty
badly,
salary,
a hefty
yes.
salary, and now we're just gonna give additional money. So that's a question I wanna ask.
I think the question, what I saw missing in this, and I did ask about it, is we don't have, it's not required they give finances, but we've always asked it with the other grants. I think this is key in seeing this. We don't know financial stability, right, of some of these organizations.
Right.
And then we don't know exactly that, like,
Right.
is somebody getting paid 85,000 and we're gonna add 20,000 to their salary to do something, to run something that isn't maybe, you know, like, could be incorporated into.
I boiled this down to planning versus doing. Right, so several of these proposals were, we're gonna take some of this money and plan
Mhm.
to do things. Other proposals in here were, we're gonna take this money and do things,
Right.
Mm.
right? And here's how we're gonna do that.
Mm.
And so I, like, for me, like the Fairwinds and the NAMI, the 2 of those are they're somewhat similar. And my thought would be is that you guys should get together and do, because you're both kind of talking about the same kind of thing. You guys should figure out how to all work together and do this, all your organizations.
Right.
And if you want money for planning that, then that is all about, you want time, you want to pay your people to put the time in for planning. That's a very different thing than what the Boys and Girls Club is asking for,
Right.
or even what the horse people are asking for.
Service
But the
direction.
horse
Direct.
people, I wanna see their money.
Right.
Right,
Because you
like,
don't know
I
that.
have no idea, and
We
I
don't
don't
know,
know
right.
them, and I wanna make sure they're a viable organization.
Right.
Was the horse people, the people who spoke to you after the select board meeting we went to? There was an outdoor encounter person.
No, that was
Horticulture.
no, it was, it's called floristry. She was
Yeah.
florist.
Okay.
No, these people, to just make a reference, is that the woman who's doing this husband has worked on the island for over 10 years. Coming from the mainland, and he comes back and tells her all these things. So she actually reached out to try to find horses here to work with, couldn't do it. But what's happened is a couple of organizations have reached out to me and said, I heard about this. If this is gonna happen, we might be interested, after we see how they run their program, to get the insurance, because nobody has the insurance she has, because she is licensed on a national level,
Mhm.
and she's licensed on the Cape to do this, to run this, and
Well,
she would be more than willing to come here and work with somebody that has the horses here.
Well, Susie had horses,
Susie,
Tapley, from
Yeah.
Mass.
Okay.
So Mass is also in this. She's very interested in doing this. She has horses and room
Okay.
for more horses.
okay, but there is the whole process.
Yes.
So I think that what happened is we're seeing something that could engage into a further thing here, once we see it working, and could become something in a greater thing in that next, as we're going through that next phase, you know, where that collaboration could go in with somebody else, right?
Mhm.
And become something greater. So I think that that's
I've got to
crucial.
run, sorry,
Okay,
guys.
thanks,
Okay.
Joanna.
So my
Thanks for the time.
and I'll get you a revised letter.
Thank you.
All right, goodbye.
Thank you.
Right.
Good.
Feel better.
Feel better.
One of
Thank
my
you.
other larger concerns was just language, like, are they gonna have? Is there opportunity for non-English speakers to participate fully? You know,
In all these
in
programs.
all of these programs.
Okay, that's a good question, and I think that's one we should, so these are things, these kind of questions are what we want to be able to put out to them, so when they come in to see us, we can actually say to them, hey.
Have you
what
thought
is-
of it?
Right.
Have you thought?
You've
of
had a
it?
minute to think about it, so.
And
what did you
along
want?
with that, with language barriers, I also want to make sure that there isn't any
We still have John?
financial.
We're just gonna note that
Yeah,
Joanna
John-
Roach has
yeah,
left, but we
Yeah,
still have
John
a
is still
form
there,
with John.
John's up there. The other thing, that there are no financial barriers to people participating.
Right.
You know, and I'm just. Boys and Girls Club, you know, will they take in kids that are just not part of their regular,
There is a
Program.
cost associated with membership.
Right,
Right,
and that's
well,
national.
that's-
But they also,
right,
But I
but,
think they're sliding.
they
scale.
work with it.
And
Okay.
their, and I mean, and their cost is nothing compared to what they give in service.
oh, I know, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to pick on anyone using that, but just I want to make sure that there are no financial barriers, because we're saying we want to do this to make sure that everyone is reached, so language, financial,
Transportation.
And let me just
transportation.
clear something on the financial thing, just to make it, what I do know is there is no financial barrier to become a member of the Boys and Girls Club. If you don't have the money, they get you in the door.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's a national policy.
I've
Okay.
never
It's just
heard of anyone
Anybody
not
being turned
able to
around
go
for
for
money, yes.
right, right,
Yeah, and I mean, they serve more people than anybody's.
Yeah, summer camp might be different, but
right,
regular daily programming.
And even summer camp, I just want to tell you, in summer camp, if people don't have it, they
Figure something
have
out.
been like extremely good. That's part of what their fundraising takes care of. So
right,
I just want to,
Right.
with organizations that I know that that's
Mhm.
true of, it should be very clear. So I think those are, I like the question on this. I like all those questions.
yeah.
I think they're important.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a question to say to every person coming in.
Absolutely.
Not just, even though I may have seen it in one, but I think it is appropriate.
So I think that we should
And
ask
also-
for the monies for, so we can see budget and their sustainability, for their sustainability as we're going
Would
forward.
we like to request this year's budget plus a couple of years in the past?
I think it would be best to show us, especially within, so, because we have to do with everybody, the year prior and this, projected budget for their year. So we see, because that's what we do with most of them, so we can see whether they've stayed on budget and what their budget, whether they're going into their budget.
Do we ask for their 990?
Yeah,
We ask for their tax form.
we have for everybody else.
I think they
We have
have to
to.
for,
Okay.
for the they have to be, the 990 is one of the ways it's confirmed that they're a official 501c able to register, receive funds.
And I guess this is a statement. I like how Joanna said, doing and planning. I have to say, every one of these applications, there's merit to them. And I wish that we could fund almost every single one here, even, and I'll use the planning ones. NAMI's application, I thought was extremely well put together. It was very well written. It hit all of the things in my mind. They're talking that it's a 3 to 5 year plan. They've talked about we have to get money from other places, which, you know, yes, that's what we want them to do. My question is, what has NAMI been doing on the island? Have they been doing any of this?
Well, they have been doing, they do monthly, I mean, Jackie Lane has done a lot here, so,
Okay,
so we do have, we,
right,
not we, the
Right,
contract review
group
committee, or
committee, right.
the town,
right,
I should say the town. The town supports, the private therapeutic treatments of
Right.
patients. They also have, hold on, they have also run, and had a guest speaker that has come in and spoken and worked with families on
Mhm.
addiction.
mhm,
And she's been actively involved in tremendous amount of
Or
community
Coordination.
Yeah, behavioral health.
behavioral health programs.
Because I
Yeah.
really would like to see this happen. It really, it's a wonderful.
It's wonderful. I wonder
Right.
though, if that can fit into NAMI's application for the CRC contract.
Right, right.
That's like, we're looking at, we've been doing the sliding scale on, they pay for a sliding scale for therapeutic treatment.
Mhm.
But is this something that we now look at as we talk about a new program coming out? And John, I hope you're hearing that. I'm sorry, I have to just.
I'm
keep-
listening to it all. I can hear it all. You
Okay,
don't,
I'm
you
just
don't, put-
reminding
I
you
put
to
my hand
yourself.
up and you don't, I hear it all. I put my
Okay.
hand up and you keep on talking.
Okay, I just want to remind myself that you're there.
Mhm.
Is that, this kind of thing is one of those newer, like, can you present something newer under the CRC grant
Mhm.
versus this grant here?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
some of these other things actually have a instant impact
Yes.
where, and one of the key things that we're looking for, I think we're looking for, is the ability to prove the collaboration so that we can start seeking this federal and state grants to support these programs that we've been talking about. Some of these with the 3 to 5 year program won't give us the feedback, but something like some of these programs automatically will be getting feedback.
Mhm.
And we'll be getting, like, the child is participating, we're not getting that, and some of them are so well-rounded in how they're feeding out into the community that the fact that they are, and they're collaborating with a group of people, is saying to us that when we go to try to do what the whole purpose of this was saying, we need help, but we need to find a way, because if the town not the town,
Well, it's all, it is,
if
it's all discussion.
the members of the grant recipients collaborated in the true form of collaboration, there'd be tremendous amount of money available to us. But in an effort that was made a couple of years ago to get money, it fell down because the collaboration, the hospital was behind something very quickly.
Chip,
Huh?
Yeah.
chip funding.
No,
It was something
it was a huge federal grant that somebody put out there. They had very little time. But the biggest thing that came back to it was Sarah, I think, that wrote the grant. And Sarah sat down with Ann and I, and we met with her. And remember when Ann and I were meeting with her, that it defaulted because they basically said, there's no real collaboration in the community. There's absolutely no collaboration that you can prove to us that people are
They weren't
working.
wrong.
They're not wrong, and that's,
Right.
and that's
And
key
that's
right now,
key,
and
yeah.
that's even in the next process we go through. We have to start this, to me, what we saw with some of these was an effort where somebody said, we can collaborate and we can work with the whole human being. And so what all of these great organizations we have in the community need to start working on the whole human being by working together. And it's hard because reality is everybody says, we only have this much money.
Mhm.
And for people, the key about the town grant is that it opens up other funding. Because once you have the town grant in your pocket, it says to organizations, if a town believes in you, we're gonna get you grant money. And so what we need to them to understand is, if you all worked together tighter and did a better collaboration, what would actually happen is there's so much money out there that could come in and all of your organizations would benefit it. And there are examples out in like Great Barrington where they've done this amazing work, and they all together ended up with $2.5 million that went back into the community through a collaborative effort, that they all worked, because they did collaborate and they were having serious issues, they came forward and they were already supporting each other. They were able to come in as a community and say, hey, we want this grant, and they got the grant because they had proven collaboration, not just on paper. It had to be
Right.
proven that programs that somebody could say, we had success because, these 3 organizations worked together to do it. And I have the notes. It was like 3 years ago that I spoke to the people out in the Berkshires,
Mhm.
but that the money is there. And they said, we were able to, and we can reapply because we've been able to prove it's working. Do you know what I mean?
So that leads me 2 thoughts that I had to jot down. One is that I need to see proof that the public schools are going to partner in all the ways they say.
Correct, because we have never seen it.
I have personally not had success partnering with them. I've gotten a lot of shut doors. And then we've got these short-term project, like programs, and then like the NAMI one is a long-term thing. And do we need to balance both? Because we need there to be long-term plans, but we also need help right now.
We need help right now, and I think the question is your short-term plan have long-term, like, are you
Legs.
implementing out there and it works? Will you have room in your budget to bring this program in and keep this program going? Or are we looking at it as saying, we do need to bring in a right for a grant to get,
Right.
to keep these going?
That's what I'm thinking about, like the NAMI, the therapy stuff, like that's a great program, but are we the only ones funding it, or is NAMI?
The therapeutic ones?
Yeah,
In the human service grant, we are the only ones funding.
like that.
But we're the only ones funding the sliding scale at Fair Winds and have been for many, many years.
Again,
Let's
so,
keep that in perspective.
so do we, yes, I think we are saying maybe we don't want to be in that business. Or do we just think the community needs that so much that we should be in that business?
I think we need to see that my personal response will be, we need to see that it's actually working and that the services are actually being rendered and that people are actually being served that are in the need of being served. Those are things that, those kind of quantities, we need to
Right.
see that. And I would like to see, like, when NAMI's comes, I would like to see better. I want to know really how many clients are you seeing on this slide? How many is Susie seeing a week and how many hours is Susie providing services for her 3 clients that she's seeing, you know? And
Right.
Bill, how many is he seeing? You know, because it is a little vague.
Isn't it capped at a particular, like, it's capped at a maximum allowance per therapist
For
for
therapists,
Yes,
the
per
amount of money is, yes, the money is, but
So
what I want to see is like,
how many
how
hours
many-
that translates to?
how many hours and how long along the way? Because I know that we give it for sliding scale. But interestingly, somebody had a conversation with me this morning over their child that was in crisis. And they reached out and spoke with somebody, you know, evaluation at Fairwinds. And the clinician listened to it and then their assessment was the child needed no services. Child got no services. So, and the child wasn't desperate and ended up being placed off island for a little bit of time in a hospital setting. So we want to know, you know, like, we want to know, and I can say, and this is what I'm going to say is public because it's been said to Fairwinds. When my son died and we reached out for help, you know, they came that night, and we got somebody that night, and then Amanda Wright was amazing with us for the next few days. Leland, who was with me in that room and lifted his brother while he was dying, looked for services. He was evaluated 3 times and it didn't take until almost 2.5 months before Leland actually was given services after I have to step in and finally say, this is ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. Here's a kid that is in such a bad place. He watched his brother die and he held his brother. What are you doing? Do you understand that he is falling apart? I handed him to you that night. And we are 2.5 months later before he's even begun to be seen. He's been evaluated, but nobody has actually sat down and talked with him. And the first conversation he had with somebody lasted 9 minutes. 9 minutes. And it was a whole bunch of stuff. And my son called me and he's like, I cannot believe this. He goes, I am so depressed. I am in such a bad place. I've seeked help. And this is where it's come. I did reach out to Amanda and like right away. And I'll be honest, Amanda got somebody, that same person, to see him again the next day, you know, like on the call. But if I didn't have that connection, it never would have happened.
And if this has happened,
To
and
me of all people.
it has to, and I want to say, it has to be happening elsewhere.
Elsewhere. And
It's not a
I,
unique situation.
correct, and I called Chris Guardian into my home and told him all of this, like I had. I haven't spoken publicly about it until after Chris had the conversation. I said to him, I have a major problem with this, and I have a major problem with how this was handled for all of us along that route. You know, like, but, and I will state that some of the stuff that Amanda did was absolutely amazing. And what services, people she brought into the community who did service, like the fire department, the police department, Jamie's friends, you know, but if that happened to me, there were 2 other families it happened to that week, you know, and I was like, Chris, of all people, you knew I was gonna be the most critical human being of your program right now, because we fund this. And my son was like pushed to the side, and it wasn't until he literally like screaming and yelling and crying was like, what is, you know, I'm in such a bad spot. So they know I am gonna be so accountable for them this year. And I want to be accountable because what I saw, my experience showed me that there is a very flawed system in our community. And that there are things we have to work on. And I'm actually in a grassroots program right now, trying to make a major change in our community for crisis work, right? And we have some great people that want to be involved. And so, but I'm just trying, so accountability is huge within our contracts, because clearly we've heard of problems before. And I have rendered questions on it and gotten answers, but those answers cannot feed to what I'm actually hearing and seeing from the members of the community that are not getting the services they need.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously can't say too much
No,
on this topic, other than there is not enough clinicians available on this island, period.
period,
That's not,
anywhere.
that's just
Right.
the
That's fact.
situation that it is.
But
It's
but
fact.
it seems it's clinicians, but it also is the process.
The
It's not-
process is hard. Yeah,
Right.
the
So,
process is rough,
Um,
and accountability is huge, and
Accountability is right.
and not every program that is funded is gonna be successful, like.
mhm.
But that we're trying things is what's really important, like, we hope they're all successful, but
And I think finding the new.
if kids don't come, you can't, like, okay, you keep.
But
trying, but-
these things here, and what I see in my personal thing in seeing these is we're looking at getting to them through different resources.
Exactly.
And ones that they can actually are tangible to them, right? And they can relate to. And what's key on a lot of these is gonna be the input of everybody involved, you know, and how their willingness to work together within a group and say, hey, you know, I recommend that you go to this program, and in that, this person knows that you're going in this program. So we've now got an open communication of the whole human being.
Right.
Versus one person working and not able to get in to any door. Because, and yes, I agree with the school, and their response level is still at 0 to almost every program that's being brought to them and everybody that's knocking on their door. So we have to do something. And if our job.
And their names are in here, so like,
Oh, it's consistent.
everybody says they're partnering, not everybody, but almost everybody, so it's like, I wanna see it.
Right, well, it's not everybody that says they're partnering with them.
Not everybody, but
No,
a
not
lot
at
of them
But
say they,
saying that
They
they're-
say they called them, right, called them. Some have not gotten calls back, which they have now just said, okay, I understand they're not gonna call me back, so I'm gonna work with these other sources. Some of them have said they're gonna get referrals, right? Whether or not they're actually gonna get the communication and referral and follow through, which is what's important. We want the follow through. We want to know that if you recommend somebody to go to this, you're gonna check them and make sure that kid is doing okay from the program. Jericho?
It may be worthwhile to ask specifically who they reached out to in the school system.
Yeah, who it is
Yeah.
that you've had the communication with, who is it
Right.
that you know, that's said, we're willing to work with you. It's gonna be key. Very key.
absolutely, cause I think there are people in the schools that absolutely want to partner with organizations and want, like, I truly believe there are staff people who wanna do that.
But
How
they need
you,
administration.
But
to say.
what is the hindrance then?
Administration has
Yeah.
to give them permission.
Right. I'm just looking, it's 5:30
Yeah.
and,
What time is our Zoom through?
5:30,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
there's nothing after it,
right.
so. could
But
go a little
I'm
longer.
going to have to leave in a few minutes.
Yeah, I did too.
So, this has all been wonderful conversation and I think we're coming at it from all different ways, from asking for testimonials to, it basically comes down to, are you doing what you say you're gonna do and show us proof that it's happening?
We want more proof.
Right.
We want
Right.
to see sustainable, we want to
Right.
see change.
Change.
We want
Right.
to see, even if that change is so little, but we see it going in the direction we need.
Is
to
it
go.
happening? Is it helping?
Right, right.
And if it's not, then there's no point to it. We need to move it and find something that is working.
Then great, thanks for trying. We appreciate the effort, but
Right.
we need
And-
to keep looking.
But I
How do we make
think,
it happen?
but I think we also have to ask for more than just effort. We need outcome.
Outcomes,
Not
that's the
just,
key.
you know, not just, you know, we did it for the Gipper, you know, like, good try, you
You
know.
need to have data that supports impact. That's, I think, the key element
Right.
here.
And apples to apples data
Right,
And
across the board. That's the hard
consistently
part.
and regularly collect the data on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Outcome is the key.
yes.
Is one of the key things, is what is the outcome of the program? Like, is the
Right.
outcome that you have made a change and because you've made a difference, these programs are gonna continue to run because people are invested into that, what you've done, right? That's what we want. We want the community to get invested into the programs
Mhm.
that we're putting forward,
I
right?
think-
That's key.
An extremely helpful method of that would be to give expected metrics in these.
Yeah.
And to be like, you will provide X services to Y people over Z period.
Right.
And I think that is one of the easy ways to do it. May I very quickly, before anything else happens, just review what is necessary on my end previous to the next meeting? So far, to my notes, I'm going to get the minutes to this and have some progress done on the back minutes.
Right.
And then I'm gonna share the letter with revisions to the committee members once I receive it. Was there anything else that I needed to get done before the next meeting?
Our questions. When are they gonna go out to?
So I think the key
organizations?
would be is if you could submit your questions. And everybody submitted and I'll send an email to Jericho requesting the submission of letters, questions. And then if they could just be compiled. And, crossed out if you get doubles, you don't write, or,
Break it down by agency and question. Is that acceptable?
no, they're gonna be blanket questions.
Okay.
And they should
Okay.
go out and the other request would be, in it, Jericho, we're gonna want financials. We want a budget from people. We want them to present us a budget and financials, like
So-
whether they've been able to stay within their budget for the last 2 years.
So we'll
Projected budget.
request, the next meeting is.
Next Tuesday.
And that's the one that's scheduled to be the initial round of questions with I don't have the schedule to hand, but we have one more review before we start inviting them.
I think
Right.
so.
We have one more
Next
review
week,
before we're
is
starting.
next Tuesday is
I
the
will-
review.
I will, for next meeting, have whatever questions I have together, in a single document for us to review. I'll send it out before the meeting. And then the minutes, and then whichever version of the letter that I get from you and Joanna, I will send out ahead of the meeting as well.
Correct.
Okay,
And, I'm gonna write you a letter requesting, that Brian Turbert be invited to our meeting to discuss with us, monies, contractual monies. I'll come up with a way of doing it.
Just
And then I'll-
financial restrictions or.
No, because we're wanting to find out that if money comes back, he told me that once it comes back, it can't be used. But is there a way, sometimes money can, be held onto? And let's find out whether or not that money can go and be transferred, like, if there's 40,000 left that we didn't use, can it be added onto our budget in the following year? So I'll send you a letter, and then if you would send it out to Brian,
Of course.
that would be great. I think I don't think there's any other business to attend to. John, do you have any comments, concerns?
I think there's been enough comments floating around. If I added anything, it would be superfluous at this point. Wait till I get a chance to read some things.
Okay, yeah, and I promise you I'll get it to you.
I'll have that printed
And-
and waiting for.
And, on
Oh, I'll
that
add that to the
note,
list.
so we
Sorry.
have a motion to adjourn or are?
you're the
Second,
one that's doing it.
Yes,
You
I'd like
just-
to.
Oh, then I would second
Wait,
that.
wait,
very much.
no.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Sorry.
No, you would like to make a,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I would second that motion.
okay, Veronica,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
John,
John Balash, yes.
Dorothy, yes,
Okay,
okay. Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Do we want to stop the recording?
5:37, adjourned.
Bring this up to